along with like a CP Kestrel and just have that range game. Or Glaive too. I mean, that's really good as well. So Glaive, Baron are up. They can also do Gwen, Glaive, what would work really well too if they want. There's a lot of options for Cloud9, but Baron looks really good right now because there's literally no hard counters to him that is available.
Yeah, this is the tricky thing. I think this is why SK were hesitating on that last pick. They're like, have we drafted ourselves into a hole here? Like, how do we actually deal with a Baron? It's going to be a Fox locked in, though. A Vox, sorry, not Fox. Going to be locked in there. This isn't Smash Bros. And I'm curious to see what they'll follow up with that one. Do we still think it's going to be something along the lines of a Glaive?
I would expect it to be, because they do need something that can counter the Samuel. They don't have that just yet. It's just, you need a way to keep him out of the Drifting Dark. They could even go for a Grumpjaw or a Catherine, but that would make a very strange composition, but we've seen Cloud9 do weird things before.
We have seen strange things, and these are the teams to bring that kind of thing out. But now, you've got to bring up the question of, is Baron a pick available for SK, or is that just not really realistic at this stage?
Yeah, I don't think it's that good of a pick because Adagio Captain doesn't give that much peel, as you see from last game for Baron. So that's going to be tough. And plus, Lyra counters Baron pretty hard. Lyra can portal in and put the bulwark up, which disables his escape abilities. So Lyra was really good at Baron. It would be bad for SK to pick Baron here.
Even if you don't have assassins on your team, Lyra almost enables other heroes to become assassins in being able to get that gap close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just iffy on the Sky pick here. It doesn't really counter the Samuel, other than being able to reposition onto the other side of him so that you don't have your entire team getting hit by Malice and Verdicts. But at the same time, like, she's not going to force Samuel out of a Drifting Dark. Gwen going to be the final pick here. So Kvalifar going away from the melee laners.
We'll have to wait and find out. We are on to the fold. Game number 3. Cloud9 and SK Gaming. They're very, I wouldn't say kind of evenly matched thus far. I mean, both of the games kind of have been kind of one-sided, right? And the one thing I want to pick up on here as well is the fact that Sky, what, 23% win rate right now? I mean, Kvalifar in a lot of trouble, I think, for Barrage. Healing comes out from Jetpacks. In fact, they're just going to keep marching forward here. Kvalifar's a one auto attack away from going down, but Jetpacks is going to get taken very low as well. In fact,
I get a double kill. Oh no! Disaster for SK at the start. It's going to lose so much of their jungle. Tyrus is going to be forced out. C9 just walk in, take 2 kills, and now we're going to waltz out with a huge win for them in the early game. SK making a vital mistake. Kvalifar walking, even had a flare to check that brush. He was not expecting an invade from a triple range there.
See the replay here. Kvalifar just walking away, and the forward barrage just tears him up.
Yeah, I mean, it was just an unfortunate mistake there that he walked in without checking, wasn't expecting that early invade from C9. And then right at the end here, this is the sad moment, Gabe Bizzle.
Oh, the
sigil execute.
Oh boy, you don't see it often. Old School taking a lot of damage. SK Gaming trying to trade up a little bit. Drifting Dark does come through. Old School has to back off very, very sharpish. In fact, so does Joseph. Not with that forward barrage up, he can push forward, but with Jetpacks with a sustain, and Tyrus as well, they're just going to decide to just back up.
I'm trying to think of where these two teams are actually going to find an engage from. You just feel like they're going to try and play at each other from range, and at some point, Gabe Bizzle's going to turn around and say, let's portal into the middle of them and try and blow them up. But they don't have the same level of burst that the SK Gaming team do. And SK Gaming need to get the advantage early on here. They're likely going to have a Tension Bow Gwen build, and obviously the spike from the Samuel is a little bit earlier than that of the Sky. So SK Gaming, they'll want to try and get the pressure on early. They'll want to be able to siege up turrets a little bit quicker. They'll want to be able to start to win team fights a little bit more readily. Old School now the target. Kvalifar going in. Jetpacks also just trying to put pressure on him in lane, because Lyra, unlike her traditional area, is not sitting in lane supporting Old School, actually spending a lot of his time roaming the jungle with I Love Joseph.
Yeah, now he's going to join Old School, so Joseph's going to have to deal with himself for a little bit, but he's going to rotate also. I mean, level 3 mark for Joseph. Does have 2 points in the Surrey strike to reposition. With Tyrus, I kind of want to touch on this pick again. I mean, he's going to have to be a really big impact. In fact, Bright Bulwark goes down. Joseph gets healed up by the Sigil. Old School is going to have to run away as well, as Tyrus does join them. A lot of damage from Kvalifar, obviously. We know Gwen, a very, very good early game hero. She's pushing forward once more. Gabe Bizzle, though, there with the heals.
Yeah, double heals, by the way, but obviously Gabe Bizzle more utility because he can get a team-wide heal in the early game, whereas obviously Jetpack's more single target, very more damage focused as well. It's Going to be, I'm expecting to see a lot of three-man lanes in this game. It's going to be Siege versus Siege, Wave Clear versus Wave Clear, and it'll be a very sort of minute game about who can thread the needle with that forward barrage, who can thread the needle with the Malice and Verdict, pick off the kills, and then eventually be able to take a turret here. It's going to be very close, I think, when you look at how these teams are wanting to approach, because again, like we said, there's no real way to force an engage from either side. It's basically going to be land skill shots from afar, and then if you get enough damage done, try and find an executing blow, and then try and force a 2 versus 3. Because at that point, you don't really have anything like a glaive or anything like that to actually force a fight. The only person that can force a fight is Lyra, and that's going to be barreling 2 squishy ranged heroes into a tension bow potential Gwen build, which is very burst heavy.
Well, I mean, this Gwen, speaking about burst, just picked up a tension bow around 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Not the quickest we've seen. We've seen one at 3 minutes the other day. It was pretty terrifying to come up against, but this is going to be equally terrifying. Gafe is already getting shoved underneath his turret here. Poison Shiv first item actually for Old School, so once more, just wanting to reduce those heals is just his top priority.
Yeah, Poison Shiv first here for Old School as well. Not the highest damage output, but again, it will facilitate Isle of Joseph to be able to take a singular target out a little bit more effectively. Some really interesting shaping up in terms of item builds. Remember, obviously Cavalifar now on this tension bow spike is going to be wanting to get up close and personal with that backline from C9. Isle of Joseph and Old School going to be targets for him, trying to burst them out very quickly. I think once Tyrese gets Frostburn, we will then start to see SK make some moves, trying to then push on with this Malice and Verdict Frostburn, find those big hitting basic attacks with the Gwen, and try and look for a siege on the back of that.
I mean, you could just really blow someone up with that tension bow proc. I mean, obviously utilising her passages as well as the buckshot. Slow everybody up. Tyrus pushes in there with the Frostburn, and you found you found at least one pick off, hopefully on Old School or Joseph. I mean, Gabe Fizzle, he's going to be obviously building towards the fountain here. Picked it up a couple of minutes ago, but the thing is that I want to see here is Jetpacks. Is he going to go for his alternating current build like he did in the previous game, or is he going to kind of stick to more of a traditional build?
Yeah, no, Jetpack's probably not going to take lessons from Gabe Vizzle, I think, with the alternating current, but I think he's more likely to build a bit more traditionally. You definitely want to consider a Crucible here, because obviously Death from Above can be devastating. If Skyland's a good Death from Above, that's prime opportunity for Old School to jump in and try and get work done. Not yet got the Frostburn, but it looks like SK are fighting. A lot of skirmishing going on. Gabe Vizzle's going to have to use the boost to get away. Tyra's already just forcing through. Does have a Oblivion available to him. Old School taking a lot of damage from those Malice and Verdicts. Even Gabe Vizzle having to back off and use that Sigil for healing. Cavalifar as well, just pressuring that lane, just making sure those minions reach that turret. Good hold on the fountain, by the way, for Gabe Vizzle. Didn't pull the panic button just yet. And that means they'll have that opportunity there if they need it. Again, still holding on to it. Gabe Vizzle, there's the fountain. There we go. Death from Above comes down to separate SK, just to make sure they have to back off at that point. And there you go, that is going to be the fountain bird for Cloud9. So SK now kind of got free reign over this turret. It is the big three-man lanes we were expecting. This is all about siege right now for both of these compositions. You want to get that first turret of the game. You want to be able to win that poke war. And SK win that early on. It's a lot easier to get consistent poke down with a Samuel than it is with a Sky. Sky can't alter the area that she's trying to fire at with her forward barrage. She has to pick her vector very carefully. Tyra's on the other hand, he can slam those out left, right, and center, try and hit people down. Obviously, he could be going a Shatterglass as well. There is the option for a Frostburn. Shatterglass would be good against the double squishy in the backline. Frostburn, obviously good to facilitate Cavalifar to get those big tension bro procs. He has gone the Frostburn. Okay, so he's going to be slowing a lot of people up now, and this is kind of what they want. They want to be able to just push forward and make sure they can just slowly move. Wait a second, George. We've got a level 6 infusion and an infusion in Tyrus' inventory. Well, this is telling me that they want to play on these big power spikes that they've got right now. They want to get the advantage right here and then run with it. Exactly what they're doing now. Again, Gabe Vizzle just healing Cloud9 up, and this is going to be the massive problem. But the problem is, can you heal Cavalifar? Buckshot does a light pass away. She's going to get followed through. They're going to jump straight onto Cavalifar. He's in a lot of trouble. Wait for it. Comes out from Joseph. Oh, Old School, but it just completely misses. 1-for-1 trade thus far. Jetpacks dodges the Oblivion, but it actually does land onto Gabe Vizzle. Tyrus pushing forward. The Malice and Verdicts cannot find the kill onto Joseph just yet. And Cloud9 and SK Gaming just want a piece at the moment. Cavalifar and Old School falling. Both the carries going down. Probably won't result in a turret just soon. Here we go. Tyrus trying to push on further. He's trying to get out of Joseph. He knows he can do it. Joseph in a lot of trouble here. Same with Gabe Vizzle. Hasn't got too much energy, though, in his pool, so we'll have to back off. But that turret's taken such a beating. That was the engage I was talking about from Gabe Vizzle. You commit everybody to dealing with Cavalifar, but the burst isn't there yet for C9. You don't have the ability to jump in and within the first 2 seconds deal a significant portion of damage to the enemy that you're trying to focus. Old School has just got a Poison Shiv. Yes, he's working towards a Sorrow Blade right now, but the Poison Shiv was all that he had in terms of a completed tier 3 item. Not exactly the same burst as an almost Sorrow Blade and Tension Bow on the Gwen's side, but once I Love Joseph came through, they got a little bit more to deal with the Kavalafar there, but unfortunately they traded 1 for 1 at the end. That's a trade that I think C9 will be happy to take, given that you've just seen SK invest 500 gold on both of their carries into super early infusions to try and get that advantage, and no advantage was gained. Right now, this is wasted 500 gold because they haven't really done much with it.
Hey, Vizzle, though, is going to get a caressed on here for Barrage just to dissuade SK, but the Drifting Dart's going to come through. Crucible is going to block nothing all too much, at least I didn't see it. Wafer actually does come out from Old School as well, just to make sure everybody gets silenced.
It's actually a pretty significant block on the Aces High. So that Aces High was actually aimed for I Love Joseph, and the Crucible, I think, unless it was actually I Love Joseph's reflex block, did the work.
Oh, passageway through, though. They spotted Kavalafar on the side and just erase him. Joseph comes through, takes the portal back. Old School's going to find jetpacks. He's going to be able to run him down without too much of an issue. For Barrage onto Tyrus. Drifting Dark as well is going to heal him up. Joseph in a lot of trouble. Just ends up getting taken down from Old School, though. Cloud9 with the ace.
Suddenly they find a weakness and they dive in. They deal with Kavalafar straight away. He was kind of out of position, a little bit isolated, and unfortunately Tyrus and jetpacks couldn't do much because minions were blocking those big, hard-hitting Malice and Verdicts, and now C9 come away with the first turret of the game, and now the Poison Shiv comes into effect. Samuel, Drifting Dark procced. He was suddenly about to pop off with some sustain. Old School jumps in, lands that mortal wound and says, nah, no way.
Denying a lot of that healing has pretty much won that fight. I mean, Sorrowblade even picked up here for Old School now, so he has got a lot of bang for his buck. With all that gold he picked up on those couple of kills, sure, he's going to spend on something nice. Okay, Vizzle now just trying to push forward in this lane now, and like you said, the 3-man lanes at this current moment in time. And with Aces High available to Kavalafar as well as the infusion, I mean, they're going to want to look for another fight.
Invested in another infusion, that's the really important point. Another 500 gold for Kavalafar, really saying, I have to win from this item spike. Gave Vizzle the target, he has got the portal available, won't be forced to use it, will just get out of there using the sigil healing and that the movement speed that it provides them, and now C9 again on the defensive.
Yeah, but SK, they've got a lot of poke potential with Kavalafar and Tyrus. Another passageway through, straight into a bright bulwark. There comes the Oblivion. He's going to get blocked. Aces High went a little bit wide as well. Joseph just hiding back now. Fountain's going to get brought from SK to keep them all nice and healthy. And Sigil as well is going to heal up the rest of Cloud9. There will be just a kind of dissuaded fight, but the thing is, look at the damage on that turret, Scoundrel. SK, they're so close to taking it.
Yeah, but they are quickly getting out of the portion of the game where their composition is strong. Kavalafar obviously investing so heavily into the infusions. Look how far he is now behind in terms of items in comparison with Old School. Old School now at coat of plates and a heavy steel on top, and Kavalafar right now only on that tension bow, which is one of the cheapest weapon power items in the game, and just a Sorrow Blade and that light armor there too. They are really far behind in terms of their builds moving forwards because they know how important it was to be able to capitalize early, and they haven't been able to do so. I think difficult spot for SK. You want to abuse the fact that Gwen has got huge punch power in the early game, but they haven't been able to, and actually C9 have correctly identified if they dive in with the engage of the Lyra portal, which is the only solid engage this entire game has, and then you put pressure on Kavalafar, suddenly the one key to the early game is gone for SK.
Well, Death and Bruv does come down. Another passageway followed through with the bright bulwark, but look at Joseph's on the sidelines here. Burst comes down, it's going to get blocked. Oblivion as well to follow up, but Cloud9 can't really find anything just yet. Wait for it to silence through members. That's going to be big. Kavalafar's going so low, and you can see Cloud9, their health bars are still so high. They're going to jump onto Tyrus. They're going to be able to find the kill. Old School just going mad at this point. He finds jetpacks. Kavalafar on an inch of HP, 12 to be precise. Make that 0 as he goes down by the sigil. Ace for Cloud9 once more, and they're going to take another turret.
Kavalafar, Aces Highs have been missing all game, but even if they weren't, Gabe Bizzle has had this locked up, sewn up, and crucible down to a T. It has been a perfect demonstration of mechanical team fighting from C9. They've identified the one strength of the SK composition from the early game, and they've been able to shut it down every time. Lyra jumps in, limits the mobility of Kavalafar, with that bright bulwark, and then allows I Love Joseph and Old School to dive in and deal with him. Once he's down, Tyrus is not so good in a close quarters engage on this Samuel. Samuel not meant to go toe-to-toe in a melee range. He's supposed to be a long-range hero who can kite effectively. Not happening right now.
Well, kiting is just exactly what he isn't doing right now. Jumps in, Death from Rub, stuns one up, but already Cavalifar's just taken care of. Oblivion is going to find Gay Fizzle, but it's not going to matter because another ace comes through for Cloud9. How is this happening, SK? They just cannot find the re-engages.
No, it's not even about the re-engages. It's the fact that Tyrus, this is supposed to be a kiting hero. He walks right into the middle, but even when he literally face checks Cloud9, they ignore him because they know that he is not a significant damage threat. They deal directly with Cavalifar, and then Tyrus becomes an afterthought. They've correctly identified the only real threat in a full-on team fight where you aren't given the chance to poke beforehand, and that is the Cavalifar. I think C9 have played this incredibly well. SK, I think they had the right idea. They were obviously looking to be aggressive in the early game, but C9 had great wave clear. Obviously, I Love Joseph spent a lot of time in lane. We did expect a lot of three-man lanes in this particular game. And I think C9 have just played that defensive strategy a bit better.
Well, there we go. Another passageway gets followed through by Bulwark. There's the first judgment. It lands onto two. But Tyrus correctly identified as the kill, apparently, and leaving Cavalifar this time instead. Double kill for Old School as he just sonic zooms forward without a care in the world. Sentry's going to go down, and Cloud9, they are going to take game number 3 off SK.
An average of 2 aces per match for Cloud9 so far. They have been dominant when given the opportunity to. SK off that, especially off that Black Feather, that seems to be a real key ban for the C9 squad. Once that's down, Cavalifar has not had the same level of performances that we have come to expect from him. 0-6-2 on this Gwen. Really shut down in the early game. When you